Welcome back. The Nigerian Senate its decision to suspend Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan before the Inter-Parliamentary Union, stating that her suspension was not related to allegations of sexual harassment but due to gross misconduct. While speaking before the IPU on Wednesday, claims made by Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan at a United Nations event that she was suspended for raising allegations of sexual harassment against Senate President Godswill Akpabio was dismissed by the chairperson of the House Committee on Women Affairs and Social Development, Kafilat Obara. She further read the position paper of the Senate by the Senate leader, Senator Okpeyemi Bamidele, where it was stated that the suspension was for gross misconduct and unruly behavior and not as a result of allegation of sexual harassment or assault. I still have with me Olufemi Lawson and, of course, Dr. Segun Osanya still joining us virtually. Olufemi Lawson, how would you describe Natasha's conduct at the IPU that raised a lot of dust and controversy that has been trailing the issue of the allegations so far?
Every step taken since this issue began, I've continued to, rather than de-escalate the crisis, has continued because only a few hours ago there have been reports that the Senate is going to question our attendance on that event and the like, because the IPU, just like is an organization of parliaments. Even though individuals have right to attend some specific sessions, just like other regional and international organizations where individuals, organizations, civil societies are invited on the byline of their events. I think the Senate is already raising questions about our attendance of that event. And the Senate has a duty to bring a closure to this because Senator Natasha is a representative of a constituency. There have been argument about some existing judgment prohibiting any assembly from suspending a member beyond 14 days by law, and some of these controversies. And I think this may not be the last that we'll be hearing around these controversies. Right, the Senate said she was suspended because of misconduct. This started from reallocation of seats. Before she became aggrieved and she began to come out with other positions around our relationship with the Senate President and even the Senate. So beyond the issue of misconduct that she has been suspended for, according to the Senate, I think we cannot just overlook other allegations because they are weighty enough to the extent that not only can it discredit the personality of the Senate President, but the personality of that institution. Now that it has even been taken beyond the four walls of the country to international organizations, meaning that it has a lot of effects on the reputation of Nigeria as a country. And that is why we cannot continue to reduce it to a dispute between Natasha and the Senate. This country must be interested in this. The National Assembly as a whole must be interested in this. Thank God that it is a representative from the House of Reps that went in defense of the Senate, because now that tells you the National Assembly is already brought into the fore, because the Inter-Parliamentary Union is not just for senators, for every legislature, for every member country. So the National Assembly must now be interested in this matter beyond the fact that she was suspended for gross misconduct, as they have placed it, to the extent of other allegations that have been laid on the National Assembly leadership, particularly at the international level.
Okay. Now, Dr. Osanya, very quickly. Now, there were quiet whispers at the moment. So why would a senator choose, to go on that platform and embarrass the Federal Republic of Nigeria without considering the implications, knowing fully well how the president of Nigeria has been going around trying to sell Nigeria and bring investors to the country? How would you assess this whole situation from your point of view, very quickly?
Thank you very much. And we live in the era of viral outrage and performative activism, where we mistake social media momentum for moral authority, and where mob mentality masquerades as social justice. This matter is just a tiny matter if you look at the sequence of events. For those of us who are advocates, as different from people who are activists generally, advocates will look at the pathology of any situation. And if you look at the sequence of events, it wasn't even triggered by the change of seats. It was initially triggered by the removal of Senator Natasha as the chairman for local content committee. That was where the whole thing started. That was where the innuendo started. So every single thing that happened, which could have been seen as a norm in the Senate changing of seat. They can change your seat. You didn't bring a seat from home. Your constituency did not design a seat for you, especially in the House. And it's not really about where camera touches anybody. You are not performing. You are not a clown. Or you are not a musician. You are not an entertainer. You are there to represent your constituency, not to showcase yourself. So the initial trigger was removal, and then it escalated with the sitting arrangement changes, and then subsequent reaction and emotional responses and rules violation. But as the Senate have said, they were not looking into the material area of the petition submitted. Right. They actually frowned at the way the petition was submitted as it flouted another order, but they are looking at the gross misconduct therein. So going out of the shores of Nigeria, after going to court, after going to Arise TV or to TV stations to do media trial, after engaging the public and having protesters all over the place and all, then going to international community to table this, where you weren't even supposed to be according to law. So that's another, it just shows series and series of violations just to settle a particular score. So, and I don't think this shows responsibility on the side of my sister, Senator Natasha, because if you know how weighty it is for you to be a senator of a country such as ours, there are better ways in which you can engage this particular manner. And this entire imbroglio scenario itself, it shows critical aspect of institutional governance and public communication that needs to be strengthened within our policy, because this is a distraction as far as I'm concerned.
All right, thank you very much. Dr. Lufemi, now that the Senate has stepped in and read their own part of the whole situation, what should happen going forward now from this moment?
This should not steal the Senate from its core responsibility, because if you look at the last couple of weeks, it has become virtually like the business of the Senate to discuss issues around this suspension and this controversy. The Senate must remain focused on its primary responsibility while allowing the established institutions and committees to do the right thing. I mean the right thing to the extent that I still insist that even the president of the Senate has not been given fair hearing. Okay. It is beyond sitting in chair and asking those who are in favor or not to say aye or yes. Yeah. The president of the Senate needs to also be heard on this matter, while Senator Natasha should also be allowed beyond the social media and all these events she's attending to table her grievances before the Senate, where she is a member.